Good afternoon, morning, evening or night, ladies and gentlemen. And welcome to an As Good As They Says. Today I'm joined by my Justice League companion, Jarlander.
I'm here and my god do I love tit milk.
Yep, classic Jarlander. And I guess I'm... what am I? Jar Noir?
Jar Noir.
And I'm Jar Noir. Hello. If you hadn't guessed by reading the title of the video or our awesome outfits today, we're talking about The Boys. It is The Boys Season 2, as good as they say. Looking at the tomato meter...
Yeah, let's start there with the consensus.
Yeah.
Before we go into our own opinions. It's got an 8.7 on IMDb from 195,000 users. It's quite a few, quite high. But I've always found on IMDb the TV rating thing is just less reliable in general.
Yeah, it's always like a couple points higher.
And as you said, 97% on Rotten Tomatoes from 92 critics and a 79% audience score from only 1,000, but slightly lower there.
Because these three scores are relatively different. Because 97's really high.
Extremely high. I can't really remember. There was a lot of buzz around the first season.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it was as critically well received as this season was.
No. This season seems to have really... Well, the first season blew up. This season...
It's just the right story at the right time.
Yeah. But this time round, it's all over social media, people talking about it the second an episode drops.
Well, because they changed the way they released the show now, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
The first season's kind of a blur for me because I just watched it in one burst.
Yeah, me too.
So I can't even distinguish episodes, whereas this time I was kind of anxiously waiting for each new release. So
yeah, I was late to the game to the first season. But yeah, like you, I was awaiting every drop of an episode. We normally say, though, at the start of these, is it as good as they say?
I think it's an easy yes. I think it's exactly what is needed in this kind of superhero genre renaissance thing. We're seeing a bit of, a commentary that knocks it down a peg.
Yeah, like everyone's been saying for a long time, like, we've had enough of superheroes. We've done it to death.
Yeah, so, and it reminds me of like in the Western genre with Good and Bad and the Ugly.
Yeah, yeah.
The way that film kind of condensed the genre into a more kind of satirical, the characters had a bit more like greyness to them, a bit more depth.
Yeah, for sure.
It feels a bit more like that kind of slant for the genre.
But yeah, I'd agree. It is as good as they say.
I really enjoyed this season.
I remember first seeing like trailers for The Boys and rolling my eyes and thinking like, oh, another one of these, because the typical thing, like what everyone was saying about Deadpool. There you go. I managed to bring it up.
Well, it's actually an apt comparison because they're attempting fairly similar things in some ways.
Very similar things, in my opinion, because they're trying to critique a genre basically. But whereas this show takes everything you know about the tropes of the superhero genre and actually flips it on his head, whereas Deadpool doesn't.
Well, Deadpool's not really interested in characters so much as just the punchlines.
Yeah. It's
all about the punchlines, whereas here they're more interested in actually fleshing out characters and having a plot.
Also, The Boys is actually funny.
The humour, especially, I thought, in Season 2 was much better than Season 1.
No, I
remember being a lot more mixed on the kind of edginess. It seems to have settled into its tone a lot better. It knows kind of exactly what it's going for, and I was finding myself laughing out loud pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Mostly thanks to Butcher and The Deep, which we'll get into in more depth shortly. But I think we got to start with what I think is personally the best thing about the show, which is Homelander.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Jarlander.
Yeah, Jarlander.
Yeah, he's such an interesting character because he is just a complete psycho. But you also kind of understand where it all comes from. He's a very interesting character, just the depths he'll go to, and he is just like an absolute... He's got no empathy, really. He's
a total psycho, and I like the way they... Are we spoiling this? like just from the get-go.
Oh yeah, I guess there's no point talking about it without spoilers, so be warned.
Spoiler warning, watch it because it's good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, spoiler talk, they go into his past and why
Yeah.
he is such a psycho.
Because how much do you get in the first season? You find out about Compound V and how that kind of creates superheroes. And do you find out he's made in a lab in season 1?
Yeah, he goes and like confronts the doctor guy.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, so what I like about season 2 is how it's very similar to season 1 in a lot of ways, like in the production of it all, and the performance is all really good and everything.
Mhm.
All of that's there. But what's happening is they're just building on the characters and the story, and it is ramping up, and we're learning things about the world and the world building and the backstory of everything. And it's fleshing it out in a way that's really expanding it in like an interesting way. At the
Yeah.
same time, while mocking all these tropes and like...
Yeah, it makes it way more of its own thing because he's so obviously just Superman.
Mhm.
What if Superman was evil?
Yeah.
Which is like the tropey as hell.
Well, there was that movie that was released.
Yeah.
God, I can't remember his name. It was so generic. But they kind of cover that sort of story, the nugget of the good idea of
Mhm.
that, where it's like, what if Superman went wrong? And it's also like woven into this vehement, like anti-American capitalism critique that the whole show is kind of built around. Homelander being like the ultimate love child of that system, and it being a way to critique that.
Yeah, and the way they tie that into Nazism. Because like the perfect American and the perfect Nazi are oddly similar.
Well, yeah, should we talk about that? Homelander and Stormfront specifically? Because Homelander, he's almost the main character. He has so much stuff happening around him.
Yeah.
But one of the major new characters was this one, Stormfront, who it turns out to be a literal Nazi. And how did that reveal play to you when you...
I thought it was actually perfect. Because
yeah,
I
it's like, that
remember,
makes so much sense.
because the way they did the season, they dropped the first 3 episodes and then did weekly releases.
Mm.
I watched those first 3 episodes in a row, expecting to watch basically the whole season, one
I
after
was
the other.
same.
And I was like, I really, really don't like this character.
I wasn't digging her because she was reminding me of a Deadpool character.
Yeah.
She seemed really like... It seemed like they were setting her up to almost be like a good guy or something in ways at first.
Yeah, totally, because they have Starlight. They have Starlight. She's like, oh, I love what you're doing. I love everything
Mhm.
you're saying. And she's one of the protagonists. Like, you're rooting for her. So they sort of use that trope that we've complained about with Marvel movies where they have a character you already like say to another superhero,
Yeah,
oh, I like you.
true.
So then you sort of think you're meant to like this person.
Mm-hmm.
But then it turns out your first feelings are totally correct. She's a terrible, terrible person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, it doesn't take long for her to show her true colours and her true nastiness. I don't know, The Boys has never really been that subtle to me.
Oh no.
But it almost has to be as overt as it is to even work. Like,
Yeah.
a character like Homelander is so absurd. You need a kind of absurd universe with the giant whales and the guts, and it is mocking something inherently silly with the Avengers and Justice League, so...
Yeah, it can't not be goofy.
Yeah, and I think it rides the line a lot better than the comics. The comics really doubles down on the comedic side, I think, a lot more. There are some great punchlines in the season, but it seems to value the kind of emotional connection to the characters a bit more. Where the relationships between, like, Huey and Annie and Butcher and whatnot, they just have more kind of... They do have more emotion to them, and it's not just about punchlines a lot of the time. There is like an emotional heart to the show.
Yeah, definitely. But also the way the show uses humour, you'll be laughing at some goofy shit one second, and then the next is like...
Well, there are episodes that are fairly heavy, actually, and they rely on the character, the Deep, to kind of always have some level of comedy in there. I'd say that's his major purpose in this season, is just to be some comic relief, but it's very effective.
Saying that, in his introduction to the show in the first season, you hate him, and what he does is disgusting and not funny.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't a funny scene at all.
But they're kind of reveling in how pathetic that character is, and it's all about making fun of him and how just look at how there's just nothing redeeming about this guy.
Every time you feel a little bit sorry for him, you think, well, he put himself in this situation. He was a twat constantly. So he just gets what he deserves.
Seeing as we're on the deep, we might as well talk about his kind of arc, which is like mocking Tom Cruise's journey into Scientology and that whole thing. How did you find that angle? Because I was pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah.
I think it really fits in line with the commentary they've been going through. There's so much social commentary in the show, from, you know, all the weird rapey Me Too stuff and the Nazi political kind of stuff with the
yeah, totally.
You know,
like I totally didn't expect him to go down this line, because for a long time with him it was sort of, why is he still in the show?
That was, yeah, I was like,
I didn't dislike his scenes, but I was asking that question.
I kept thinking the same. But again, though, I think there's that fairly good payoff, which acts as kind of a tease for the next season, with that whole storyline. We're building up I can't remember what the kind of leader of the Scientology is called, but the equivalent kind of character in this show, who, like, his design, he almost looks like the devil.
Yeah, he does.
Perfectly trimmed beard and everything. It's so comically evil. But he gets taken out suddenly, and that's kind of a bit of a reveal at the end for the exploding head woman, as another kind of tease for the next season. Because I don't know about you, but as the show builds and starts to, like, really get quite interesting and involving, I fear how easy it is to lose that momentum. All it takes is just for, like, a little snag, a little story choice, a little moment to go the wrong way, and all of it can come crumbling down. I said to you, I feel like they added Stormfront to this season. This is before I'd watched the whole show.
Yeah.
Because they needed a new villain who can kind of be taken out this season, so they can continue to have Homelander in the forefront. Because I've read about 20 issues of the book before we recorded this, just so I could kind of contrast as to what it was like. And Homelander, he's a major character, but he's not nearly in it in the way he is in the show. He's like he's kind of the poster boy for the show. He's the hook, as I said, in a lot of ways. And I'm a little, I'm scared of what they're going to do with him, and I don't know what happens in the books, but I hope it's satisfying. It is building to a really nice way, and the final shot with Homelander, I think, is so fucking awesome. Them jerking off over the city, and, like,
no, that is, again, no subtlety whatsoever, but
it makes sense for the headspace of that character.
Yeah, totally.
He is just a living nuke. He's a living weapon. Why would someone like that not have an ego that inflated?
Yeah, and, like, he needs people to love him. And
there's such, like, a human weakness for a...
Yeah. Well, but for a character that, like, is Superman, everyone's gonna love him. He's got the American flag on his back and shit.
And they're kind of teasing that he's starting to snap a bit. They show his, like, visions of him imagining mowing down hordes of people with laser vision and stuff when they start, you know, booing against him and not supporting him anymore.
Did you believe that was happening?
I actually thought during that scene that it was like, oh wow, this is, like, suddenly escalated. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Because you don't even doubt that he's capable of it.
Well, exactly. That's why I thought that scene was so perfect.
Yeah, because that's kind of a trope that I can get quite annoyed with, and especially in horror movies, they tend to do that, where it's like a fake scare dream sequence, and they wake up type thing. But it's more reflecting the character and his mindset, and just his go-to in his head is that whenever he's put through any minor bit of stress,
if someone confronts him, it's just, I'm gonna cut you in my lasers.
Yeah, and they're kind of with that, him jerking off over the city, saying, I can do whatever I want, I can do it. It's setting up a pretty, like, terrifying villain, and he is absolutely horrifying because he is effectively unstoppable.
Yeah. Did you ever feel sorry for him at all?
No. I think after that plane scene in the first season, it's like, dude, you're so evil.
No, maybe feeling sorry for is the wrong way to put it, but, like,
empathizing with the circumstance of being this weird test tube creature that's just been raised by
in a lab, and he was made to be a product.
Well, this is another thing I really like about the show, is that his son, by contrast, is the complete opposite of him. And I think that's largely what the show is about. It's like nature versus nurture, and how Homelander is this horrible monster because he had no parents, really. He was a product of just this horrible like company making him.
Yeah.
Whereas his son is the opposite, raised by the mother, and he has empathy, and he tragically takes his mother out in the end.
Well, yeah, he's more like the typical Superman. This kid, his son.
But adding that character into the world where Jarlander exists is like...
Yeah, well, it's fascinating. And the fact that Homelander wants to sort of be his dad. Well, he does straight up want to be there for him, but he doesn't know how to be a dad, because he never had one.
No. And he does show... He clearly does care.
Yeah.
In his weird, fucked up way, and like his advice and stuff, he doesn't realize he's being an asshole necessarily. And he thinks the advice he's giving is good advice because it's just the way he's always been. But us seeing it, it's like, oh my god, it's so wrong. Something so wrong about it, especially knowing that the kid's like a good little soul with his mother that really cares about him. Seeing that like ripped away is quite disheartening. Like I found those scenes with Homelander and the son, I thought that kid did a really good performance.
Yeah, definitely.
Which was like getting me concerned, because when kid characters start coming into these shows, it can often take something away if the performance is bad. But I thought that kid did a good job, actually. Yeah, I really like that dynamic. Every scene with Homelander, I'm basically full in.
Yeah, he's never in a bad scene.
Yeah, and his performance, of course, is also... He has some real moments to shine, like... I think it's in the last episode where he just like murders all of those military men in the cabin and stuff. And
he hears that they're trying to get his son away from him. Yeah,
that was terrifying. He's just a psycho. He's an utter maniac. The last thing with Homelander, really, I guess, is actually there's a bit more. There's his relationship with Queen Maeve, because for ages I've been like, what is the point of Queen Maeve? Like, what's her purpose? And we finally sort of understand. She's morally been torn. She knows what the Seven are doing is like awful.
Yeah,
it's completely morally incomprehensible, and she, instead of like fighting back, she'd just, become like an alcoholic or whatever and tried to hide away from it. But she kind of is forced to act this season and winds up blackmailing Homelander in a way that kind of saves the day. If she didn't do that, they would have been fucked.
Yeah, she's sort of the hero of the season. But the reason she hadn't done anything like that up until this point is because Homelander is so scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do buy it, because the like oppressive superhero system they're under is so... It's such a... The scope of it is so big, no one person can really take it down unless you are Homelander.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they allude to Maeve and Homelander having a relationship in the past. And, I mean, that probably is one of the reasons she's so afraid of him, because she's like...
Well, there's that really skin-crawling scene where he comes over and kind of resides in her. And she's like she's kind of like acting, going along with it, and he really thinks she's like with him. Mm-hmm. So he's like really emoting. It's like, oh god, he's so unhinged.
Yeah, and he's terrifying. One complaint I have with Homelander though is his sort of his rules. When it comes to his powers, I remember early on in the first season, it was like there is nothing you can do about this guy, because if you hide from him, he can hear your heart beating.
That's right, yeah.
Because they have the whole sequence where they've captured Translucent, the Invisible Man.
Yeah.
And they're like trying to figure out how to kill him, and he like turns up, and they're shitting themselves because he's OP. But there are times where it's like, how are the main characters just getting away from him? I can't remember. They're in like a sewer or something after the whale bit. And Homelander is like feet away from Huey and Butcher and all that, and they just sort of run off.
Well, Homelander tries to get Annie to kill Huey.
Yeah, that's right. And then Butcher shoots someone.
Yeah, Butcher comes in and just saves the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. They were just on the verge of doing that a bit too much. But I guess it is just a thing with the character being so powerful. They want to have Homelander in scenes with the main cast because he's an interesting character. You want to see them clash. You want to see the conflict.
For sure. I mean, it's definitely a minor downside, but a downside nonetheless.
Yeah, I was finding with kind of minor negative type things, the odd relationship felt a little bit repetitive to me, like the Huey Annie thing. After a certain while, it starts to feel a bit repetitive with the way they seem to be like falling out and getting back together. And
yeah, it's very rom-commy.
Yeah, I'm not the most into that side, although I do really like Huey. I don't know why. I find him to be a key element for the sympathy of the show. I really like the way they kind of flesh out how Huey to Butcher is like the canary in the coal mine. He's like the...
Yeah.
He needs to be... He keeps him level. Yeah, exactly. And it makes him very sympathetic because he is kind of the good guy, and when he gets injured, you're like, shit. Like,
yeah, definitely. It's strange because I have to give 100% credit to the actor. Because I think that type of character ordinarily could really piss me off. He's got this like earnest nature to him, and he's really... He's not a pussy, but he's not an asshole.
He's kind of an average person's entry point into this universe. Like, anyone can relate to him. He's the fish out of water, like... He's whipped from the real world into this craziness type thing.
I do feel as though he's definitely getting way less of a spotlight this season. Sorry.
Yeah, I really thought at a certain point. I thought when he got injured in that scene, I thought they were going to give him powers or something.
Oh, really?
That's what I thought. I thought they were going that direction. I'm not sure how I'd feel about that, but
yeah, I think if any of the boys get powers, it will be a bit strange.
Yeah, because I just picture like worst case scenario, like Butcher gets powers and then he fights Homelander in like the end of Man of Steel type battle.
Yeah, don't say that. It makes me worry.
And, talking about like actiony things and non-negatives, one thing I will say is it is a TV show. The scale's obviously a lot smaller. The action stuff, the CG stuff, is very obviously like CG kind of... I'm not sure how well it's going to age, basically. I mean,
it's aged pretty badly.
Yeah, like...
In terms of just, like, even the more conventional fight scenes, they look really bad.
Well, it depends on which one. I like the kind of physicality of them and the way there's a gore and it feels like...
Yeah.
There's inherent tension because... they're willing to just kill characters. So
yeah, definitely. But I mean more in terms of Kimiko, when her fight with Black Noir. She's got multiple fight scenes with just like goons and shit.
Yeah, that's the thing where the strength of the show is the writing and the acting, and it kind of has to have action because it's like a superhero thing, and in the book there's loads of action and stuff, but the budget restraints and everything. And just for me, like, they're mocking the superhero genre to such a degree. It would be awesome if the action was, like, also better than the average Marvel movie as well.
But it's worse. So
yeah, like, no one can say that the action is better than, like a Marvel movie or something.
Yeah.
It
doesn't need it, though.
No, this is what I mean. Like, it's just like a little thing every time there is an action scene. It's like...
The sad thing is, though, I saw some behind-the-scenes stuff of... Kimiko doing the fight scene, and the stunts she did, awesome.
Oh, really?
Really good.
Maybe they just didn't shoot it very well.
Yeah, because they just chop it up and like have it too close. It looks lame.
Yeah, in saying that though, there is the odd action scene I quite enjoyed. The whale thing is funny. Often the punchline is what kind of cements it in my memory. Like you said, that fight with Black Noir and it ending with him fucking with the peanut allergy.
Yeah, that is hilarious.
And the whale boat thing, like, and then the set after they'd crashed into the whale, they like built the innards and everything with the whole practical like guts everywhere. That was awesome. I love that stuff.
Yeah, and Huey's just like sat in the guts.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It really Gears of War 2 moment.
No, it's strange when it comes to effects and sort of the larger bombastic stuff. That tends to look better than the smaller scale fight scenes. Because thinking of whenever Homelander like slices someone in half, it looks great.
And there's another moment I quite enjoyed it, which the action isn't actually as bad as we were probably saying it was in thinking about it. Because I think
I'm actually thinking of fight scenes more from season 1 than season 2.
Yeah, no, because I think it was worse in season 1 in terms of that kind of stuff. It wasn't as popular. The budget was probably lower. But Stormfront, I remember having a couple good action scenes. There's the one where she's chasing down Kimiko's brother, and she like just crashes through a building, and the camera shows the outside of the building while she's like causing the carnage, and it like goes up to the rooftop and everything.
Yeah, and when
that stuff's cool.
She like breaks his hands sideways and then tears his face open. Or something.
That is hardcore.
It looks good though.
The gore and everything is awesome. Like it's a good way of doing, because you know, like The Walking Dead always got its rep for like, oh, it's so gory and the stakes are so high type stuff. That gore thing seems to just work quite well with this tone specifically, because it doesn't always take itself so seriously. But the gore, there's comedy gore like The Whale, but there's also like that affecting gore where the villain character is breaking someone's hands like off them, and it's just so vicious and violent that it does add to the character and make them more frightening.
Yeah, definitely, especially when she's doing that to a character like we didn't have any attachment to the character she did that to, but we had an attachment to his sister.
Yeah. And well, seeing as we're on Kimiko, we might as well talk about her and Frenchie. And that was something I wasn't that keen on in the first season. I was always a bit like, what's the point of this? Where's this going in the first season?
Yeah, I found it quite weird. Why he suddenly like latches on. But again, like you say, in season 2, they sort of Frenchie gets loads of time. Yeah,
and he gets his whole kind of backstory fill out thing with what's his name, Lamplighter. That whole, we'll talk about Lamplighter in a bit.
Iceman plays Fireman.
No, I really thought Frenchie and Kimiko were way more interesting this season. She kind of opens up a bit, and and her brother coming in.
There's the whole arc where she is finally teaching Frenchie how to communicate with her, which is a really satisfying scene.
Yeah, it makes me fear for one of them. None of the boys have died yet.
No, that's true. They've only like gained people.
Yeah. And you know, I just feel it coming, you know. Someone's gonna go.
I hope it's not Frenchie. Again, that actor really does a good job. Like,
he's so charismatic.
At first he's sort of like a dick, and then he's got the odd funny line, and then he has this whole thing with Kimiko where he's showing like a tenderness. And he's honestly such a likable guy.
Yeah, and Kimiko too, showing a bit of vulnerability in different ways.
The character that was introduced in season 1 is like this sort of just crazy murderer. Just runs around killing people from our perspective, like for no reason.
Yeah.
But then she gets a full backstory. Like
the human trafficking and stuff. It's pretty fucked.
They don't introduce a character and just leave them ever. Like they
have a purpose, and they're given backstory. They're given weight to
them. They get fleshed out.
Well, like we just mentioned, Lamplighter. I really liked that character and the role he played.
Yeah, me too.
Because he was played by, as you joked, Iceman from X-Men, but with fire powers this time. But he's like an ex-Avenger, basically.
Yeah, and he's super bitter about it.
He's like really bitter and feels like he's owed it and belongs it. But he can't get past it, and fucking just commit suicide in there.
Yeah, as like a fuck you to the I almost said the boys, to the 7.
Yeah.
He just burns himself alive in their office.
Yeah. Because he gets a whole couple episodes all about his backstory.
I remember the episode before he killed himself. We were talking and we said, like, do you think he's going to become one of the boys? And we both thought he was just going to be like.
Yeah, we thought he was going to be a major character, but.
And he sort of was. Like, he played a significant role, and
he had to be there.
Fleshed out, and then he killed himself. Like, it's just how it goes.
Yeah, he was so important for when they were going through that facility. They needed someone with like the access and clearance to get them around. Otherwise, they would have just been screwed.
We can briefly talk about Mother's Milk.
Yeah, he's just consistently likable to me. They haven't done anything crazy with his character yet, and I'm not sure if that happens.
They sort of allude. It's always 3 or something. 3 sugars in his coffee. He like stirs his tea 3 times or whatever. It's cool, neat, and gives him a little bit of substance. Where he as a character has had, in terms of the boys, probably the least amount of time given.
Yeah. Hopefully he gets more.
Yeah, definitely, super charismatic guy.
I just like his other gimmick where like he just really cares about his family and like
he sort of just really cares about like
he's
his friends, his family.
Yeah, he's almost like the backbone of the boys.
Yeah, he's like a really tough dude, but he's got a heart of gold.
Yeah, he's essential to have around, and I thought he was a goner in that last episode, when he's in the car and it's sent flying into the air.
Yeah,
I was surprised how they all survived that. But
yeah, after Huey basically had the same thing happen to him, and he almost dies. They get launched like probably even further, and they're all fine.
We haven't even mentioned Butcher though. Surely he's like the fan favorite.
Sticking with the boys. Carl Urban, the boy, if you will.
I liked Butcher in the first season, but I preferred him in this one.
Really?
I thought his quips were funnier. I liked his arc. I really thought in that last episode, I was like, I believe he's gonna kill that kid.
Yeah, no, that's something again, like with the Homelander laser beaming the audience. They set up these characters to be like such extremes and then sort of tell you they're going to do something and you just believe it.
Yeah, well, the Butcher had a really good arc.
Yeah,
it was kind of his arc almost coming to an end in terms of his motivation from season 1 to then it's it concluding where it's him letting go, basically. Yeah,
I suppose if season 1 is Huey's arc, I guess season 2 is Butcher's arc.
Yeah.
For the protagonists.
Yeah, because in that last episode, he decides against killing the kid, and even with the kid killing his wife unintentionally. Yeah.
Well, I didn't really know what was going to happen there because he picks up the crowbar as if he's about to go to town. But you don't.
Yeah, and I guess thinking about it, reflecting on it now, there's no way he could have killed that kid and remained a kind of protagonist goody type character.
That was the thing with him this season. Butcher was really being portrayed as not a very good person. Like he was so dead set on this one goal, on his goals, that he will do literally anything. Like he has no morals.
Yeah, and he kind of found out how far that could go with the kid thing, and he was like, I guess when it came to murdering a child that his own wife gave birth to, that he couldn't quite do it.
Yeah, it sounds ridiculous to say, but like in the moment, it feels like something he'd do. Yeah, he's the most like anti-hero character.
Yeah, and he's got the quips, he's got the humorous lines and everything.
What do you think of his accent?
I think I'm just used to it now. But I think with the lines being better too, I just wasn't noticing it as much because I was really into the character and his motivations and what he was trying to get done.
Yeah. And it is totally relatable why he is the way he is.
Yeah.
And they introduce his family, his mum and his dad.
That's true, yeah, with his dad being played by
Scarecrow from Batman Arkham Knight.
Wait, was he Scarecrow in that game?
Yeah.
I was thinking Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings or Fringe.
Boromir's dad, yeah.
Yeah. I love that actor.
Yeah, he's got real fuck is the word?
Gravy?
Gravitas, yeah. I just really liked the dynamic of Butcher, his wife, the kid, and Homelander. That to me was like, how is that gonna resolve itself? Because that's not gonna end well. Just that combination of characters, like it's such a good bit of conflict.
Well, I mean, even just Butcher, his wife, and her son, like that's enough of a spanner in the works because of how much Butcher hates soups.
Yeah.
And that probably is intentional because he's like a fascist. Like, no matter who they are, if they have superpowers, they are terrible to me, like in my eyes.
Yeah. And that was another thing, another dynamic with Annie kind of joining the boys a lot more for the journey. And the way he kind of clashed with her and they kind of grew to respect each other by the end type stuff.
Yeah, and that probably is a factor to why he changes his mind in the end.
Yeah, because she's there. Yeah, so I guess it is the kind of meat, I suppose, is Butcher's arc. Yeah.
Yeah, I just really like how they have all these storylines that make sense, that contribute to the arc.
It's all building on
the whole
itself.
Story.
It's
just ridiculously well written, and it's definitely the best show on Amazon.
I think Mr. Robot's better personally, but
oh yeah, to be fair, I haven't seen enough of that. Are there any other boys, or is that all the boys? That is all the boys, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all the boys. All the voice.
All the Pit Pop boys.
We got to talk about the Deep more then, because it was so fucking funny to me. Like that whole angle with him. He's so pathetic. He's so unlikable, but at the same time, the actor does such a good job, kind of really selling you on just how pathetic he is. But he can't see it. He can't read a room properly. He's just such a dickhead.
No, he's like a total narcissist. Maybe narcissist is giving him like too much credit. He's like so full of himself.
We really think he's owed, and he doesn't even like really understand the consequence of his actions and stuff.
No, he's just an idiot. He's actually really stupid.
He's a dumbass. Yeah, he's a real dumbass, and they kind of pair him with the A-Train.
Yeah,
and the other character,
really smart.
Yeah, is really smart, and with the other character who's mocking like the Hawkeye type. It's so funny. They're like in the AA meeting, like all talking about how they used to be like these awesome superheroes, but now they're just like nothing, and no one cares about them anymore. It's just such a funny idea. The way they kind of like politicize the superheroes and make them really grounded in that way, where all of the superheroes have their like PR crew and all the businessy side.
Slimy.
Yeah, it's so slimy and like accurate to the way, these megacorps and stuff kind of run themselves.
Yeah, and I love the way the Deep is so controlled by the Scientologists. Like,
yeah. Just like Tom Cruise.
When the lead guy brings up the head of Scientology guy brings up the Arrow guy, he's like, the Deep says, "Oh, he's my best friend. He's such a good guy." Then he says he's been kicked out of Scientology. The Deep's just like, "Oh, fuck that dude."
He's just a bootlicker.
Yeah. He doesn't give a shit about anything apart from.
And there was that running joke about Fresca or whatever. That weird drink.
I didn't really get that. What was that all about?
I didn't really get it either. I assumed it was it's like an American drink, I guess. I don't know. It's a Coca-Cola. It's a grapefruit flavored citrus soft drink created by the Coca-Cola company, but with the Deep and an A-Train.
A-Train sort of gets introduced to that plot line because he's kicked out of the Seven.
Yeah.
For having heart palpitations or something. Like his heart is super vulnerable.
Yeah, because wasn't he abusing Compound V?
Yeah. And on top of that, Stormfront was like the most important thing for the business.
Yeah.
Of what is the company called?
Vought.
Vought. Yeah. And she was obviously a racist, so she wanted him out of the Seven. And then Yeah, so he goes into Scientology along with the Deep.
He rejects it more. The Deep just mindlessly accepts it.
Yeah, A-Train is shown to be like a smarter person, but still a shithead because all he cares about is making money for himself.
Yeah, he's still a selfish character.
He sort of puts the whole climax into motion, A-Train, because he gives this information that Stormfront is a Nazi.
That's right, yeah.
And to Huey and Annie, and they reveal it to the public, and then Stormfront is fucked from then, and that's how A-Train gets back into the Seven. So he's actually like a
crucial character.
A crucial, smart character. He did that knowing exactly where it would get him.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I didn't really think about that. Is Stormfront dead, then? She's just straight up there. So I wasn't sure if she's going to be like in like a chair, like a crisp in a chair.
Yeah, where my mind started going worryingly was like, she will have a return and she'll have like fucking robot limbs and shit.
Oh.
Because
it sounds too high budget.
Yeah, but I do you want her back in the show?
I think her purpose is spent. I think the surprise of her reveal is enough, and she's so comically evil. She's so ridiculously evil, being like a literal Nazi and everything.
Yeah.
The real interest with the villain, he comes from Homelander to me, and the complex relationships of the Seven more than just her, because, you know.
Yeah.
Her and her relationship with Homelander was interesting too, but...
One disappointing thing on that front, on that Storm front, was that I felt as though Kimiko should have got some more comeuppance against Stormfront. Like, she should have played more of a role in her downfall.
That would be the obvious thing, but...
Well, they half do it.
Yeah, they do. Maybe that's kind of what... She does kind of kick her ass, doesn't she?
Well, they all do.
It's very much like that Quentin Tarantino movie, Death Proof. There's a scene quite like it with all the girls kicking the...
Well, there's in every single like Avengers movie or whatever. Well, not every single one, but they've got that money shot of all the girls.
Yeah.
And it's funny because in Marvel, all the girls are like discount versions of the men.
Yeah.
Like there's woman Iron Man, there's woman Ant-Man, blah blah blah, which is just fucking lazy.
Yeah.
And then the boys has come in and actually had 3 fucking great characters.
Yeah.
Beating the shit out of a Nazi. And in this, you're not rolling your eyes because like they're forcing this.
Yeah, it's quite a few layers of humor there.
Yeah. And it's a really good scene.
It's funny, yeah. There's loads of like punchlines that offer like dramatic kind of conclusion, but also the humor and the commentary is...
Yeah.
The commentary side of it does add so much value to it.
Yeah, and you're like laughing at that scene, and then 2 minutes later, a fucking child is laser beaming his mum in the neck.
Yeah, and it's like a really effective scene. Like, I don't really remember feeling any kind of sadness emotion in the first season, particularly.
No.
There's the odd moment, but I was connecting way more with the characters in season 2. There were a few moments with Huey I really liked.
Yeah.
Butcher too.
It just seems to be the more time these characters are given, the more you like them. And it's like they're becoming less of a caricature of themselves.
Ironically,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, with the cartoony superhero-ness of it all. Who's left then? I guess Gus Fring.
Yeah, Los Pollos, Far Cry 6.
Do you think he's just been ridiculously typecast now?
Yeah.
Where he is just the same kind of character in all of them.
Yeah, it's quite annoying. Because he's a really good actor.
No doubt.
But I don't need to see him in this role.
It's getting to the point where it's almost distracting.
Well, it is, because I'd argue it straight up just is distracting. Maybe if Breaking Bad had ended and that was Gus Fring's end, way back then, whatever. But he's in Better Call Saul, which is like
playing
current.
Gus. Yeah.
where he's playing Gus, who is the same character as the character in this show, which is
He's not the same character. He's the same actor playing a similar character.
But I mean,
It might as well be.
if you look at like the morals of these two characters, what is the character traits? What are the differences between these two characters?
Well, you know a lot more about Gus Fring than this guy. He's just kind of the evil
I suppose
megacorp guy, right? There has to be a face to it, and he's really clever and kind of ahead of the game, and kind of knows how to react to everything. He's one of those type. I honestly don't find him that interesting of a character. He's just...
Well, he's just a businessman. Nothing he does is out of like where the superheroes do things out of malice and just to be horrible because they like doing that.
Yeah.
Every choice he makes, and I don't think he is that like much of a genius of a character, because like from season 1, Vought has only like gone downhill. You know, it's just fuck up after fuck up for them.
I guess, yeah.
And his idea to like make more money is to put a Nazi front and center. It's someone he knows is a Nazi. Like,
that's
of course,
true,
that's
yeah.
going to blow up in your face.
Yeah, I guess he's more there then to kind of cement this, you know, anti-megacorp, like capitalism to the extreme type message of it.
Yeah, because his grand scheme was to get Compound V given to like loads of people so they could sell it and make loads of money, which like is a good master plan, but it doesn't work.
They did less than I was expecting with the whole soup terrorist thing.
Yeah, it has its purpose being like make people scared, and then they don't need to like focus on that aspect anymore.
Yeah, do you think it will come back in later seasons more so or something?
I don't really know how it could, because like they only existed because Vought was making them, so they could run this whole,
which is like
agenda.
A commentary on how the West kind of caused the whole conflict with the Middle East and everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I'm just left wondering, just removing it from the kind of recency bias, like, man, this is like really into this. I'm just wondering how it's going to age, because I think that matters, because people are already talking about this might be like up there with some of the great shows type thing, but I'm just wondering how it is going to age, and if that really matters or not even.
Yeah, I think a show being relevant to the time, I mean, it happens. Like, there must be loads of shows that are commenting on current shit, whatever. Yeah, the only thing is that it does seem really tied to like right now. The Boys.
Yeah, it's interesting that, because as I said early in this video, it does seem like the right place, right time kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
But in saying that, like, as I said, I've been reading some of the issues of the comic, and a lot of those themes are deep-rooted within the story proper anyway, and it just happens to still be very relevant to this day.
But there are changes they made.
Oh, huge changes.
From it feels like, I mean, I haven't read any of the comics, so I could be totally wrong, but or I'm just interpreting the show wrong. But it feels like season 1 is Vought like represents the movie industry.
Oh yeah, it's completely mocking the superhero trends.
Yeah. But then season 2, it becomes super political and more like.
Well, you're forgetting about the Me Too stuff in season 1 too.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, it's focused on the movie industry. Like, that's what it's picking apart. In season.
Yeah, I'd have to rewatch it, to be honest.
And then season 2 seems to be like critiquing politics and the government and shit.
Yeah, and the way it relates to the money.
Well, yeah, specifically America, like all these governors and shit, their hands are tied. There's nothing they can do to stop superheroes just being in the military and shit.
And I might as well comment actually on the books and the differences between that and the show. And so I was seeing a lot of discussion saying the show might be better than the book. And I'm starting to see that said more and more. And that really got me interested. So I'm like, that's not the common story. So I want to see what the differences are. And I think I've gotten far enough where I can quite clearly say that the show is much tighter, much better, much more concise, much less exaggerated and ridiculous. I showed you there's a major section of the story in the comic about this guy who's like addicted to raping, and he's got he's like a parody on like Iron Man, and Batman kind of combined. And in the comic, he has to send away his like equivalent of Robin because he's scared he might assault him and everything. And it gets to such a ludicrous point in the comics where there's like a huge meteor like coming down towards Earth, and this rapist superhero guy like flies up and he fucks the comet and it explodes.
Does it explode because he fucks it?
Yeah, and then it like kills him and everything. It's like it's just a weird like, it's just a complete punchline, completely ridiculous, like just fuck Iron Man, fuck Batman, like it's making fun of those tropes type thing.
I don't really see how that is a commentary on...
Well, yeah, it's not really a commentary. It's more just saying, like... I guess, like, this is more what a real Batman or Iron Man type person would be like. Because, fitting in with this, like, anti-capital kind of businessman type thing.
Yeah.
With those characters being... They don't have superpowers. They've just got the money to be able to afford for people to invent inventions for them. To do that kind of thing. But anyway, yeah, like I don't know how you could possibly have that in the show. Like the comic is so fucking edgy. If you thought the show was edgy, like it's nothing compared to that book. It's to the point where you are rolling your eyes and you're like, really? Like, did you really have to do that? Did you have to go that far? There's this whole part where they go to like Soviet Russia for like issues, and that to me, I like nearly stopped reading around there. Sorry, not Soviet Russia, just Russia. But yeah, I wasn't really digging that as part of it. And yeah, the characters just aren't nearly as interesting. Homelander isn't in it as much. Like, I just think that the showrunners and whoever's writing the show they get what is good about the original source material.
They cherry-picked the aspects.
They know what parts to expand on and what you want to see more of and what we don't really need in the adaptation.
One last thing to shout out this show for is whoever did the casting. Like, Jesus Christ. They did a perfect job. Not a single character feels like out of place in any situation. Like,
yeah, no, I think the quality is really good, and I just hope they can keep the momentum going.
Yeah,
I don't want to look back and be like, shame it peaked at season 2 type thing. But.
Yes, yeah. What are your predictions for season 3?
Well, it seems like, because this is another thing we didn't really mention, is I think the pacing in the show is very good. The story moves really quick.
It does, yeah.
As there are some repetitive aspects to it with some of the relationships, but the actual overall plot and the way things are revealed and how quickly things happen and the way they're moving around, and it does move really quick, and that's really satisfying about it.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps to kind of keep things concise and flow really well. But as far as the next season's concerned, it really seems like they're building up Homelander to snap to me. But I don't know how you can tell a story around that without other aspects. Clearly, this woman who can explode heads is going to be a big deal, because she's kind of ingrained in the politics of it.
Yeah, and she's strangely anti-Vought. We should just talk about the ending of the show first of all, because they sort of revert a lot of stuff, like undo certain things that have happened. Like why can't I remember her name? Starlight?
Yeah.
Is her name Starlight?
Yeah,
Starlight was Annie. Annie was kicked out of the 7 this season. And then she's brought back. The boys, like, they stop being the boys.
Yeah, the end of the season feels quite final in weird ways. And
yeah, but also not. Which I really appreciate, because I get super tired of every single season of a TV show being like getting you super hyped up for the next one, and then it's like 6 months.
It feels like the end of like a comic arc.
Yeah.
The story's come to an end, but there's still a lot more story to come. Like the smaller arc has come to a close, and there's now a new one is beginning.
Mm. Yeah, and something I'd forgotten about actually. Do you remember the boys go to see the CIA woman from season 1? She's in it loads.
Yeah, yeah.
And then her head explodes.
Yeah.
Why would that character explode that woman's head?
Surely that's what the next season will be about. We even know her motivations, really?
I suppose, yeah.
Got to leave some things.
They've definitely left a few breadcrumbs for us to sniff on and follow. If you catch my drift.
No, I was... After they were coming out weekly, I was like, I was enjoying my boys' fix every week.
Yeah.
And I'm sad to see it go for now.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I really liked it. It's like... It's what the superhero genre needs at the moment. Like, I don't think Deadpool is needed in the same way. It's popular and people like him, but it's not the genre defining like commentary that really is going to be remembered for me. Whereas this, I think of all the superhero bullshits from the last like 20 years, and I'm like, yeah, this does a good job of kind of mocking it effectively.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's also good enough of just a show.
Yeah.
It doesn't lean on the fact that it's like the characters are rip-offs of the Justice League, without a doubt.
Yeah, but they just have human issues that tend not to be included in your typical Captain Americas and stuff. They're more broad, whereas The Boys is all about sex and drugs and addiction and all this, and power corruption and all this kind of stuff in ways with the gore and everything that it just adds a fresh kind of coat of paint on it. Yeah, I'm hype for more of this. I just hope it stays as good as it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2 for 2 at the moment.
Yeah. Do
you have any final thoughts?
Jarlander's coming for you.
Listen here, Jarlander's coming for you, and you're gonna regret ever being around when he arrives, because he's gonna get you, and there's no way you can avoid him getting you.
Especially when I laser eye you.